Now, the situation, you're very welcome back at the top of La Liga, is that Real Madrid are on 66 points. They are clear of Sevilla back on 57 points, so 9 points clear at the top of the table. Barcelona, with a game in hand, are on 54 points. So Barca, if they win that game, would go level with Sevilla, 9 points behind Real Madrid. The extraordinary situation over the weekend, though, was that PierreEmerick Aubameyang scored twice. This was last night. Barcelona put on a show. 4-0 winners against Real Madrid. The Bernabeu silenced. Carlo Ancelotti and his team ashen-faced. Guillem Balague joins us on the line. Guillem, hello.
Hello, Joe.
4-0. Who saw this coming? Tell us about the game. What happened?
Yeah, absolutely nobody saw this coming. But it's a combination of things, and you cannot separate one from the other. We have to be in order. We cannot say them at the same time. But one thing is, of course, that it's quite clear Xavi has made everybody believe in what he's doing. Everybody thinks the same way. The way that they be working in training means that everybody knows what their role is and what they have to do, what kind of solutions they have to find depending on the problems they find on the pitch. Coaching and quality has helped with the arrival of the three players, especially from the Premier League, Aubameyang, Ferran Torres, Adama Traore, also Dani Alves, who is a right back, but stroke centre midfield when they attack. All those things have helped Barcelona to gain confidence, points, and to improve their football. And of course, given the opportunity to play in their own style, they will take advantage of it. Remember, they come from struggling with Galatasaray, which are mid-table in the Turkish league, but eventually managed to get a victory away. And then at the Santiago Bernabeu, with everything that means to play in the Clasico, it was one of those games in which they wanted to confirm that they are on their way up. Certainly the points suggest since Xavi arrived before the Clasico, if the league had started there would just be a couple of points away from Real Madrid. So things were going well. But you need a disastrous operation on the Real Madrid part for Barcelona to actually look perhaps even better than they are at this point in time. They look amazing, but because the disorganization of Real Madrid were extraordinary. Honestly, something I haven't seen in football before. What I'm saying is, without Benzema, Ancelotti had to take a decision. Who do we play there? Perhaps he thought of Gareth Bale, as he had done the previous time that Benzema was missing, which was against Villarreal. He played him there, had a couple of chances, played well, and didn't have to touch much. It was just a number 9 placed in there, or Bale used as a number 9. But instead of that, he decides to actually have Modric, 36, I should remind you, as a false 9, meaning that he will link up with the midfield. Sometimes, other times will appear between the centre-back and the full-back, close to the defensive line and running behind and a lot of things, and place himself between the lines. A lot of things to do with the ball and without it as well. So he would be the guy running to Ter Stegen, the goalkeeper of Barcelona, or the centre-back of Barcelona, to try to get the ball off him. What a disastrous decision. Because what that meant, of course, is that the midfield had to follow on. If you had a player like Modric, who's not very dynamic, put in the first line of pressure, everybody should be close to him to protect him. Instead, what happened was the midfield of Real Madrid, that included Valverde, went very deep, and there were so many gaps, and the pressure was so disorganized that it was dead easy for Barcelona to go through the lines of pressure. And then one chance came, and then another one, and then another one. Barcelona went 1-0, and the disaster was so obvious that the first strange decision took place. Minute 35, Ancelotti calls Modric and says, look, we got this wrong. Modric, can you just go back to your place as a midfield next to Kroos and Casemiro, the famous 3? We will send Valverde on the right, further up. We put Rodrigo, who's a right winger, as centre forward. And when Modric was going back to half of trying to reorganize the side, Barcelona scores the second goal. And the game is gone. But the mistakes don't finish there. So at halftime, not happy with having changed twice the formation, Ancelotti decides to change it again and makes 2 substitutions and puts 3 at the back. 3 at the back that had not been, like the false 9 of Modric, trained at all. They hadn't worked on this at all. Huge chance from Ferran Torres, misses. Another chance of Ferran Torres. We don't know where the defense is. third goal. Oh my God, what do we do? Change the formation again. Ancelotti decides and puts Alaba, who is one of the three centre-backs, on the left-hand side of the back four. Anyway, I've never seen anything like that. Formation from the third to the fourth type of formation changed within 4 minutes. And it was just a disaster. Barcelona took advantage of it. A lot of gaps appeared. There was a lot of movement with the ball and without the ball. Quite clearly, there are things that they do with their eyes closed now. The move of Aubameyang dropping deep and allowing that space to be used by the midfielders, or Aubameyang running in behind and being found. A lot of things that are working, but I think Real Madrid made Barcelona look much better than they are. In any case, as you said at the beginning, and I gave you a very long answer, but it was an extraordinary Clasico.
No, it sounds extraordinary. So the goal scorers again, for anyone who didn't see the game, Aubameyang on 29 minutes, Ronaldo Araujo on 38, Ferran Torres 47 and Aubameyang on 51 minutes. Because Gerard Piqué tweeted after the game, "We are back," which seemed a touch premature, but you can understand the enthusiasm because, well, he has seen some dreadful days over the last couple of years, and for Xavi to return in November and for Barcelona to start producing like this must be an incredible relief to Piqué, who must have thought that his club was going down the toilet. So Xavi is the toast of Catalonia, I would think.
Oh yeah, and that sense that Piqué kind of reinforced, it's shared by the Catalan media, by the social media, Football Club Barcelona as well. I mean, the Twitter is so enthusiastic. Football has got that ability to come back and bite you. So, but anyway, they feel that they are on top of the wave of happiness. As you say, coming back from a very low place of lack of confidence. They didn't know how quickly this turnaround was going to take place. To be honest, it's gone much quicker than expected. Remember, the new chairman Laporta didn't want Xavi and admitted it so. And now, of course, he's so glad that he's taking that decision. Piqué himself didn't know if he had a career at Barcelona because he seemed like he was at the end of his physical powers and influence. But of course, with Messi going, he's become one of the bigger leaders and backed up Xavi arriving. And of course, Xavi has. We all thought there was going to be big decisions, and in fact, we were told by the club there would be big decisions, meaning some of the big players, but Busquets still there, Alba still there, Piqué still there, and Xavi has kind of relieved his, give them a new lease of life. Don't try to analyze the context that I just put there, like having been at Galatasaray and struggling means that if Barcelona have to face, I don't know, say one of the top three Premier League clubs, they will struggle big time. Because the midfield is not dynamic enough, it's not aggressive enough. Because if a team actually puts a lot of pressure to them in the way they build up, they struggle. There are things that's still not right. Of course, Aubameyang has been scoring regularly. That is a really good return. He's got a lot of chances. He's been very effective. If that doesn't happen, the goals are not there, all the players are not scoring at the same rate. So there are things that I can imagine that could go wrong, but right now I'm trying to tell them that because, of course, they are living a moment of happiness.
I'm sure. And Guillem, if you think about Barcelona's failings over the last number of years, then the 147 million euro spent on Dembele was held up as one of the poster boy mistakes. It seems he's had a resurgence of late. So what's been happening with Dembele?
What's been happening is that he's got a coach that has given him confidence, has gone against the wish of the club. The club gave him an ultimatum: either you sign a new contract or you leave. The threat as well was that he was going to be left on the stands. That would have been illegal and a really big trouble. Xavi thought, you cannot leave talent on the. I don't want to be the manager that leaves this kind of talent on the stands, not playing for 6 months. So when I use him, and by the way, he's our best player, and Dembele is there, Barcelona's best player, or close to it anyway. Yeah. So with that in mind, Xavi said, "Okay, I'm going to try to recover him." And in fact, even though he kind of worked with the club with that threat, eventually when it became clear that he wasn't leaving, he thought, "Okay, well, I'm going to use him." And Dembele is responding. He's also responding to the inputs from Aubameyang, who, of course, they were together for a while. at Borussia Dortmund in the best goal-scoring period of Aubameyang, so he knows that how important Dembélé can be for him. And well, it's all of a sudden he doesn't get injured. He's happy. He smiles. He feels important. And his entourage is saying that it's not decided what he's going next. There is all these rumors that he signed things. In fact, Barcelona leaked to us, oh yeah, he's got something with somebody. Now they're saying, actually, it would be nice if he renewed. So it's up for scratch, and let's see if what he decides. I think he personally wanted to stay at Barcelona. His agents will like a deal in which the commission is big enough to be convinced, and Dembélé listens to his agent. So, but the club don't know what's going to happen. The club has said to Dembélé and his agents, if you want to stay, you have to call us. And Dembélé and his agents, or his agents, are saying, you know where we are. So it's that poker kind of card game that is right now.
You mentioned Aubameyang. So I think when PierreEmerick Aubameyang left Arsenal for Barcelona, Arsenal fans weren't too upset. He had scored 4 goals in 14 matches and looked totally uninterested, not just in Arsenal, but potentially in football. And now he has pitched up at Barcelona and, as I mentioned, scored 2 goals last night, had an assist as well last night. That means he scored 7 goals in 10 appearances in the league. He scored another 2 goals in 4 Europa Cup games, had a hat-trick against Valencia, for instance, as well, and has been reborn, age 32.
And doesn't it happen to all of us? You know, there are periods in time where you do things without wanting because you get well paid and that's where you've always been. And all of a sudden somebody says, you know, because you always have been trying to go to Spain, to Real Madrid, actually. But that never happened. And he speaks Spanish, as you all know. Given the opportunity to go to Barcelona, a club that had been flirting with him for a while, he thought, yeah, why not? And then all of a sudden, you feel new energies appear in your mind and your legs. He hadn't really trained properly for 2 months, and Barcelona knew that. But what Xavi told him is, look, I just need a small job from you. I don't want you to be the Aubameyang of Arsenal, in which you had to do everything and you were the main star and you had to win all the games for the team. No, you don't need to do that. You need to replace yourself here on the edge of the box, next to the centre back, between centre back and full back. Make the runs in behind, sometimes drop deep. And he understands the game. And that's a part of the game that he does happily as well. So he's just fallen into place perfectly. He's happy. Who wouldn't be in a place like this in Barcelona, which is what I am. And all that put together means that he's giving his best version.
Yeah, amazing. So look, there are certain stadiums in the world, Old Trafford, Anfield, the Nou Camp, Bernabeu, which are iconic. And then there are others like the Emirates and the Etihad, which have always been the Emirates and the Etihad. So I presume nobody in your neck of the woods is happy that next year everybody's going to be talking about the Spotify Nou Camp.
Well, it's the new world. I mean, we keep asking the world not to move on and to stay where it always was. Where was it always? I mean, it's like it's been moving all the time. But there was that period of romantic period where stadiums didn't have a surname or what prefix or whatever you want to call it. But Barcelona need money. They're desperate for it. We already more or less described what's happened on the pitch. It's on the way up. Off the pitch, let me tell you. They asked Goldman Sachs, a fund, to actually give them 500 million euros loan. And then they said, and we also need money to rebuild the stadium. And they put it to the season ticket holders and they voted for another loan of 1.5 billion. So that, in my counts, is 2 billion, right? The budget is about 750 million. So if your budget is 750 million, and you owe 2 billion, I just don't know how that's going to work. By the way, you owe more than that because the debt that Barcelona have is 1.3 billion. So what's that? 3, it's a lot of money. And they don't have that kind of money to come in and pay for that debt, not in the short term. And not just by selling players or reducing the wage list. They've got a very small limit in which they can move in terms of wage list. So they are selling themselves, obviously. they're selling the naming rights, and they think they're going to get. Well, they are getting a good deal, which, by the way, is the same deal that they had already with different companies. They added the naming rights on top of it, so it's like naming rights was free, but because more or less it's the same money they already were earning from the share of the women's team, the men's team, the training kit. But it's post-pandemic, so you have to say it's positive. But look deeper. They actually are selling what they call the Barcelona Studios, which they create content by another 250 million. So if you got a fund that owes, that you owe, 2 billion, and you keep selling parts of your club, who owns the club these days? And that's an answer that nobody wants to give.
One last one to throw at you, Guillem. Manchester United, it seems, have a shortlist, and Luis Enrique is on that shortlist. What chance of Luis Enrique walking out on Spain ahead of the World Cup were Manchester United to come calling in the summer?
0.
Well, that answers that.
Yeah, I can give you more. He's got contract until December. He's got no intention of leaving Spain. He is creating something special that we saw in the European Championships. He wants to take the team to the national side. He wants to sit with the president of the federation and see if they renew the contract or not. He's not one. He wants to go to the Premier League, don't get me wrong, and he wants to go to one of those big clubs. He's been offered smaller clubs, say, and he said no to them before. But right now is the wrong choice. I'm convinced that Lopetegui and Luis Enrique have been thrown into that short list of 6. I think Conte is there, and I think who am I forgetting? Conte is there, and Brendan Rodgers is there as well. So there's 6, not 4. But I think 4 of them are there just to distract the attention. For me, it's Ten Hag and Pochettino. Those are the favourites and the ones that, the process has started. It's true that Rangnick is not involved in it. I think everybody who is involved knows that they are in that short list, which means that conversations are taking place of some kind, and the decision has to be taken now. But I think they're all asking the same thing. What's the structure? I'm coming in, but what does the whole thing looks like? And they need to answer that properly, because these are managers that want to go into a club in which they don't want to be the solver of all the problems, but part of the solution, a solution that has to be found at the club and has to do with the structure as well.
Yeah. The answer to that question is simple. It's a mess. It's carnage. That's the structure. Absolute carnage. No one knows what they're doing.
It looks like that at the moment. It's a good choice. I mean, it's a good selection. I'm not sure what Brendan, Julen, Luis Enrique, Pochettino, and Ten Hag have to do with each other, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah, that would imply some kind of strategy. Listen, great to have you on. Thank you so much, Guillem Balague. I appreciate it. Thank you. Guillem Balague there on Barcelona's 4-0 win at the Bernabeu last night. And our football show coverage is brought to you by Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.